Welcome back to the Masterpiece Life Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Leticia Garcia, and I am so glad you're here. If you've been tuning in, you know that we are in a three-part series on things that hold us back from walking in our true identity. In today's episode, it's one so many of us face daily, often without even realizing it. We're talking about comparison and culture's definition of worth. And I want to ask you right from the start, have you ever scrolled through social media or maybe just been around a bunch of people, successful people, maybe at work, maybe at a party, and suddenly you felt like you were falling behind in life? Yeah, me too. Today, I have two special guests. We're going to be talking all about that. So let's jump right in. Welcome, everybody. Today I have two amazing, beautiful, special guests, my daughters, Selena and Destiny. And I just felt like today's topic would be great for them to chime in because we all come from different generations. My daughter's her early 30s. My other daughter is in her mid 20s. And today's topic, we're talking about all about comparison and what today's culture's definition about worth. As you know, this is our last episode of our series on what keeps us from living out our identities. And I feel comparison is a huge trap that keeps us from living out our true selves and living our self-worth. And so, ladies, my beautiful daughters, welcome to this episode of the podcast. And I'm sure I'll have you on for many more. So let's start the conversation. Today, we're
Thank
talking
you.
about comparison. You're welcome, Selena. And Selena's all the way in Texas. So this is going to be fun and interesting how we engage because I'm sure we're all going to want to talk. Well, maybe not Destiny. She's a little more on the quiet side, but we'll pull out what we can from her. Let's jump right in. Ladies, we're talking about comparison and what does it do to us? Comparison, it's a sneaky one. It makes us shift to fit into, impress, or even to avoid rejection. Have any of you guys found yourself acting differently around certain people just to be accepted? This is a tough question. Celine, you want to jump in there?
Sure. Not so much anymore, but when I was younger, I would find myself acting different depending on who I was with. And I felt that was more because I felt that I needed to put on a persona. And a good example is because I had grown up in church, they tell you how to act and stuff. And so I'm at church, so I act according to how you're supposed to act at church around the lovely Christian folk. And then when I'm at school, I was bullying people, just
My goodness.
not being very nice, getting punched in the face down the street because I kept calling a girl crusty toes. And should I not be saying this?
Although not surprised. No, go ahead. This is real.
So yes, I would definitely say, even though at the time when I was doing it, I even felt like this is really mean and this is not me, but you know, it's fine. I have friends, they like me. And so as time went on, I think I kind of learned, it was a learned thing. If I adapt to who I'm with, I can be more liked. And later on in life, and I mean like as in the last maybe 8 or 9 years, is when I really started to understand that that wasn't making me happy at all. And I was fighting internal conflicts of who I felt I was and who I felt I needed to be. And it was extremely frustrating. And it was exhausting. But more than anything, I felt that I grew resentful because I acted a certain way with my husband because I felt that I needed to be a good wife. And it wasn't like I was going out and partying and drinking. I don't drink and I don't smoke, but it would show up in subtle ways. Like it's hot out here in Texas. It's summer, like 9 months out of the year. It's hot and humid, and I wanted to dress in dresses, and I actually don't really like dresses too much, but it's too hot to wear jeans, and that's my go-to. And California's weather is very different from here. And my husband didn't never see me dressed like that because I didn't. And so to him, he's like, "Whoa, like you're acting different." And it's not that I'm being any different. This is just I'm adapting with where we are. And so even though it was so subtle, I found myself getting triggered by that because I'm like, dude, I'm just being me. But it wasn't necessarily him. It was all of those years that I kept telling myself who I needed to be for somebody, that I didn't want to be questioned, even if it was as simple as that.
Well, that's good. So you felt like in church you were being one way because you were told to be one way, and then at school or anywhere else, you were being a whole nother person because you felt like you needed to fit in.
Yes. But sometimes it's not always being told of how to act. Sometimes it's just observing and seeing what's accepted.
Oh, that's good. So it's not really somebody saying, "Oh, you need to be this way like me." It's just it's an internal comparison. You
Correct. Although
comparing yourself.
there can
Mhm,
be times when
mhm.
people are like, you need to be this way to fit in, or why are you acting like that? We only talk to people like this. But for the most part, a lot of my internal comparison was exactly that. It was internal, just me observing, like, oh, the people that appear to act this way get talked to more and accepted more and get called on more.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why I have you guys on here is because comparison is going to look different for us. And I'm going to ask this question shortly, but and the question I'm going to ask is how do you think modern culture, especially social media, has influenced how people see themselves and measure their worth? And for me and my generations, and I hate really saying that because I feel like only elderly people say that, well, in my generation, but that's just how I have to word it. Um, we didn't have social media. I mean, not until what, the last 10 plus years or so, but we didn't
Oh,
have
like
social media.
2007, 2008.
Yeah, and so in my younger years, your age or Destiny's age, I didn't have social media, so it was really comparison in the physical form. When we would go out, when we would hang out with friends, it was like, "Oh, who should I be like? Oh, how should I dress like that?" So it was more of a physical comparison. As now, we have access to see anybody and everybody at all hours of the day. So I feel like it's much different from how I could compare myself or how I feel comparison should be because when I go on social media, it really doesn't impact me. And maybe that's just my view or my opinion, but because I'm not engulfed in social media and it's not my life, obviously we need it if we want to start a business or a podcast, but it's not something that I feel I have a comparison issue because I grew past that even before social media came. So, I guess, Destiny, I wanna ask you this question. How do you think that modern culture, especially social media, has influenced people how see themselves and their worth? Like, do you feel people do measure themselves based on what's on social media, and that's where they get their worth from?
Yes, people definitely do. They try to compare themselves to a lot of influencers, especially now the TikTokers and the streamers and all that. They try to be like them or try to become them. I feel like people want what they have. And in order to get that, they have to be like that person or be
Mhm.
similar. So I feel like it definitely affects a lot of people in this generation now.
And how do you keep yourself from that? How do you keep yourself grounded to where, you know what, I don't need to be like these TikTokers. I don't need to be like everybody else on social media to know my value.
For me personally, it's because I do not care. I don't care what
I mean, that's
everyone
it in
else
the
says.
simplest form, right?
Yeah, I know that I am my own person and I can only be me. And there is only one me and there's only one life that I have. And so I kind of already I don't compare myself. And that's just kind of how I live.
What do you feel helps you not compare yourself though? Was it the way you were raised? Because you have an amazing, wonderful mother, or how do you feel your upbringing, or do you feel your upbringing helped you?
I do believe you did help because you told us never to follow the crowds, never to be the sheep. You like you said to be a leader, not a follower. And I think also just growing up and maturing, I just have also realized that why I try to compare myself.
So you were in the Marines, and I know that completely changed your whole view of yourself, what you're capable of doing, right? And that's like a whole nother
I want to
culture.
jump in right there because I want to say this.
Okay.
Destiny joining the Marines changed my view on myself
How so?
because I found it to be so inspiring. I mean, there were when you went to boot camp, it was 3 months we couldn't talk to you, or 5,
3 months, yeah.
3 months of no communication. And I would talk to you all the time. I mean, till this day, I talk to you almost every day. In fact, just the other day, we hadn't talked in 2 days, and I texted you, and I was like, "Where are you at?" And so when you left, and then I moved here, with my husband, we moved here to Texas. It was hard at first, just the thought of leaving you guys and everything that we've known. And thinking about you leaving and doing something so different. I mean, this was like a complete shock because we only have one other person in our entire family that joined the military.
Yeah,
You
that was about
inspired
80 years
me.
ago.
Yeah, yeah. You really inspired me. And I felt like if she can do it and she went by herself, what can I not do?
That's good. So you totally, yeah, she totally surprised us and stepped out of the box, and she didn't go to college like we were anticipating. She said, "Nope, I'm going to the Marines." So how did the Marines help shape you in your, I guess, knowing your worth, knowing your value? Do you think it shaped you? Do you think it helped you?
Yeah, it did. When I went to the military, I definitely feel like I matured a lot. I think especially because of where my command was, I worked with a lot of older people. And when I mean older, I mean they are 50 and above. Normally, other Marines will get stationed with people in their same age range, but because of because of my job, I was just stationed with older people. And being around them definitely matured me, and it showed me that I don't need to be like everyone else. And because they were all people that were leaders and were higher ups, that showed me what a leader is. And it showed me that I don't have to be like everyone else and that I can stand out in a good way and not so negatively or showing off way. But yeah, that there's ways to stand out physically, as in like as in our physical test scores, and there's ways to stand out on paper. There's ways to stand out efficiently, like how efficient you are in your job. And um my boss, he showed me that, and he definitely showed me how I can stand out and how I don't have to be like everyone else, but how I can be my own person as well.
So do you think that helps you when you say you're scrolling through socials? Because I know you do. Do you think that helps you in saying or in being like, okay, I that's cute and all, but I don't need to be like you to be valuable or to know my self-worth? Or let me just ask you this. People your age, do you even think about that? Do you even think about I have a self-worth or I'm valuable? Like, do you think about yourself as being valuable?
I personally don't think a lot of people think like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have friends that don't put their self-worth first
Mm-hmm.
and don't put themselves first. And I think that's a little sad because you should put yourself first. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're the one living your life, no one else is. But no, I don't think a lot of people do. I don't think they put themselves first. I think they put social media first. And
Mm-hmm.
like people say when they go out to eat at restaurants, the camera eats first, not you. So I definitely
Oh,
think
that's
like,
good. I've never heard that.
Yeah,
yeah.
that is good.
That a lot of people just they're on social media all the time. I heard a quote where it's like your Instagram, your stories, your reels, that is just a highlight of your life. It's not your life.
Mm.
Instagram is just a highlight of it. That you're not showing the bad. You're not showing you crying every night because Billy broke up with you. You're not crying that, your baby is throwing a tantrum every single day that you can't sleep at night. It's just a highlight reel. And I think that's what a lot of people are seeing, and they're not seeing the real person
Mhm.
behind the phone and behind the camera.
Mhm.
The real
Well,
person behind the reel.
Yeah.
yeah. And for me, I always, and then you guys know this, I always ask you guys, especially if I'm like speaking at an engagement or helping somebody, it's like, did I sound full of crap? Am I full of crap? Because I want to be honest and I want to be honest with people. And I feel like if we're too busy comparing ourselves, we can't be honest with ourselves. And then we can't be honest with other people. It's just we're living a lie. And so, Selena, how do you fight comparison? Or give us an example of how you maybe fought it off? Because I think sometimes it creeps up on us, even when
Yeah.
we don't think about it. I'm not saying, oh, we're completely perfect and we never compare ourselves. It's a silent creeper. So what has been some, I don't know, can you give us an example of maybe something you were comparing yourself and how you helped yourself overcome that situation?
Yeah, well, I do photography, and so when I was starting off, and every now and then it still tries to come into play, but at the beginning when I was first starting, I used to get I used to get compliments on my photography work, and I would think, "You're lying. You're full of crap. These are horrible." Because I was too busy comparing my work to other people who were doing it for years, for a lot longer than I was. And one way that I stopped doing that was I stopped following people in my industry because I was following a bunch of photographers Like, oh, I can learn from their work. I wasn't learning from their work. I was too busy criticizing myself when looking at their work. And every time I see a picture that they post, I'm beating myself up about why mine doesn't look that way. And I felt more discouraged than anything when the point of adding them or following them was supposed to be for the good, right?
Yeah.
And so one way was I stopped following them until I built myself up. And now I just don't care to follow anybody else's work because I'm not even interested. So, in that aspect, what I started doing was watching videos on how to better myself because I thought, okay, well, they're no different than me. I've upgraded my camera. So, at this point, it has to be me. So, I must not know something. So,
Mhm.
one thing that I did was I went to go learn. And so, sometimes the best thing when, again, this totally depends. In this situation, because it's a skill and not something internal, I could just go learn and that helped me. And it helped me feel more confident. And to be honest, when I stopped following them, even at the beginning when I wasn't exactly learning information, that just gave me a lot more confidence and appreciation in learning how to appreciate my work and
Mhm.
understanding that the photographers that I follow or that I like, it's their style of their look, it's the style of their work. And I'll
Mhm.
have my own because I was trying to copy their style and it was frustrating me.
Yeah, you find value in your own style, not in everybody else.
Yes.
That's good. I like that. So what are some internal lies or beliefs that you had to unlearn about your worth?
My worth or my work?
Your worth, your value.
Internalize was needing to be accepted by everybody when the reality of it was I couldn't accept myself. And it was just like I'll be good enough when someone gives me a compliment. I'll be good enough when someone tells me that I'm good enough. But the
Mhm.
reality of it is, like I said at the beginning of my photography example, people would compliment me and tell me my work was great. And my thought was, you're lying. I'm pretty sure they weren't, but I couldn't accept that I was good because I wasn't telling myself that. I was just telling myself what I needed to work on, what wasn't good, what I sucked at, as opposed to focusing in on my wins, on what I was good at, and acknowledging and appreciating those points.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Des? What are some internal lies or beliefs that you had to unlearn about your worth?
I can't really remember
Mhm.
because, like I said, I don't care.
Two
Just
different
don't care.
generations here, people. This is why I wanted the conversation because we're all gonna have different perspectives. And Selena, if you listen to my first podcast, Selena is my firstborn, and I had her as a teenager. So I had no idea about my worth. I had no idea that I even had value. I was just another human being here on earth, now another teen mom. And so I feel like in order for me to help my daughter know her identity, I had to find mine first. And that was a tough journey. I'm sure we'll have another podcast talking about that someday. But I know that I needed to find who I was and find my worth in order to help Selena. But here comes Destiny 6.5 years later. They're completely different individuals. But by the time I had Destiny, I had some sense of who I was, or at least who I didn't want to be. And so and then as she got older, that's when I started finding my identity and started knowing who I was. So then I was able to impart in that to her. But with Selena, sorry, Selena, we had to do a lot of undoing, right, Selena?
Hmm.
We had
Yes.
to do a lot of unlearning. I know a lot of times Selena thought I was comparing her to other people. Would you say
Yeah.
that was right, Selena?
Yes.
How would that bother you? Share about that.
It made me feel at the time that I could never be accepted to be myself. I always had to be somebody else.
Mhm.
And then I could be accepted. Or maybe if I did this, it would make my mom happy. And then she'll stop nagging at me.
Well, actually, it's if
She
you
still nags at me.
and you're 31 years old with a husband and you live in Texas.
Yes.
But it's not called nagging. It's called providing information. And
Uh-huh.
so me and Selena together had to unlearn a lot of things and mainly our own identity. Like she said, there was a lot of times where I would say, no, Selena, you do this. No, Selena, you have to do this. No, Selena, you have to dress this. No, Selena. And so it was confusing to her because she wasn't able to live out her own likes, her own ideas, her own personality. But when I started finding my identity, then we were able to break out of that. Again, I was a young mom raising a kid. So my attitude was just do as I say and we'll all be happy. But Selena wasn't happy. Selena would find herself running in the room a lot of times, right? Selena crying, probably calling
Yes.
mom and my sister, telling them how horrible I was.
Yes, I was always telling on you.
But with
I still
Destiny,
tell on you.
yeah, I'm sure you do, but that's okay. But now you tell on me. You say,
Yeah,
Mom.
exactly.
And with Destiny, again, totally different generation. With Destiny, I had already started knowing my identity and my worth. So then it helped me raise her and your brother, be more confident, be more
I don't give a damn.
yeah, basically. Be more assertive in owning themselves.
Mhm.
Like she said, I train you guys to be leaders, not followers, to be responsible, respectful, and to not worry about what other people are thinking and saying about you because I lived with that. I was a young mom. I heard the, oh, you're another teen mom. Oh, you're not going to accomplish anything. You're not going to do anything. Your kids are going to be teen moms too. You're not going to amount to anything. I had to fight all of that to get us to where we are right now. Of course, number one, with the help of God. And you have an amazing dad who we went on the journey together of raising y'all. And it's so hard when you're, especially with a teen mom, and you're seeing these other moms who are older. They got married, then they had their children. So it was hard to not compare myself to them and be like, oh, I'm not successful in that area because I was a teen mom, or trying not to hold that against myself, but fight to be successful. So that comparison thing it was really ugly. And you know why? Because I feel like it becomes you. Like you're constantly fighting to be something you're not, at the same time trying to be who you think you are, instead of saying, you know what, I'm not going to compare myself. I'm just going to be who I'm called to be. And that's how I am now. But before, comparison can be so ugly. It's like time consuming. You're so wrapped up in figuring out, what are people going to say? What are people going to do? Why don't I, look like that? Why don't I sound like that? Why don't I live in that nice house? Why don't I make that money? And it's this constant battle of staring at somebody who's not you. And I feel like when you don't know your self-worth, you're constantly going to be in that comparison battle. And with Destiny and Elias, they were raised to where they didn't have to fight that. So unfortunately, Selena, you had to fight it off with me, but I think we did it.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, you even now, even when if I try to tell you these days, like, Selena, don't do that, or Selena did, and you're like, Mom, no, that's not me, Mom.
Or I tell you, Mom, I'm 31 and I have my own home.
Exactly. But don't tell your dad that, because to him, you guys are all still children. So Destiny, what do you jump in here, Des? How do you feel? Let's talk to your generation here. What do you think? Give us some words of wisdom, Des. What do you think people your age can do to not compare themselves? I'll say, and how can they find their self-worth, or what is something they can do to start valuing themselves?
A quote I saw, or a quote I saw on Instagram was, let's say I live to 100, I'm 25 now. I only have 75 summers, 75 winters, so 75 more years of my life to do whatever I want. So why let others stop me? Why let social media dictate how I'm supposed to look, what I'm supposed to wear, how I'm supposed to eat, blah, 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 how I should be working out, whatever. I think just live your life. You only have that little amount of time to do whatever you want, and do something that brings you joy and not something that you think others will like. Like when I went to the military, I didn't join the military to make you guys happy.
Yeah,
I
that's
did it
sure.
for me. At the time, I didn't care if you guys liked it or didn't, because either way, I was going to be 18 and I could do whatever I want. I could have joined at that point without your permission. And so I think just stop doing something, or stop pleasing others. Please yourself before you please others. And I think put yourself first and not care what anyone else thinks. Just live your life, because it's short and you never know when you can go. So you just got to do you.
Yeah, and I always told my kids, don't let anybody tell you who you should be. Not even us as their parents. Because I was guilty of this, like with me, I was just saying about Selena. Selena, you need to do this. Selena, you need to do that. Well, Destiny was another another child. She was a little rowdier. She talked back a little more.
A
And
lot
so
more.
yeah, so I had to
I wasn't even allowed to blink the wrong way.
oh, why that's another podcast, Alina. So with Destiny, I had to, although I kept the same standards, the same rules, same guidelines, I had to raise her differently. I had to see from her perspective, and then the same with your brother. You guys were all different. Because in the beginning I did try to raise you guys all the same, but that wasn't working. That wasn't working for Destiny. So then I had to be like, okay, God, you got to help me with this one. Yeah, because she was supposed to go to college, and then one day comes and says, Mom, I want to go to the military, and not just any branch, the Marines. So that was a huge culture shock on all of us. But, again, I told them, don't let anybody tell you who you are. Don't let anybody dictate your future. I mean, I probably could have said, no, Des, no, 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 and fought her tooth and nail. But at the end of the day, if she would have listened to me, she would have been miserable. She would have ended up blaming me if her life didn't go the way she wanted it, or the way she has her own purpose, the way God intended. And so now she's almost done with her college. And now she might be going to the FBI Academy, which she said all along from the beginning, Mom, I want to do this because I want a career in either the FBI or the CIA. And she's just following her path. But if I would have kept saying, no, 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 and she listened to me, who knows what her life would have been. And that's what I don't want for my kids. I want them to own their own identity. I want them to know their own worth, and not allow us, even as parents, to dictate who you are. And Selena, I think you run into this a few times where people would try to tell you who you are outside of me, but other people. And how did you handle that?
Well, in my younger years, it was very influential because you being the authoritative figure in my life, being my mom, and growing up, you guys always, we were just brought up in our family in general. You respect your elders, and when someone speaks to you, you listen. And so that played a role in it too, because depending on who it came from, if it came from somebody who I respected, it was like, oh, okay, well, then maybe I actually need to listen to that. But now it's a completely different story because I'm still learning me, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I have a better grip of who that is now. And if that, if whatever somebody says, even if it's good intention, not everybody that comes to you and tries to tell you something is trying to tell you because they're trying to take over your life. But if they tell me something, then I analyze it and I think, is this me? Or, could this be feedback? Or
Mm-hmm.
should I just disregard this? So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely consider the source too. If it's not somebody whose life I would want or respect or admire, and I'm not talking they need to be a billionaire, but maybe they just have a good solid marriage, then okay, sure, I'll take that advice. But if their marriage is always hanging on the brinks and they're trying to tell me how to live mine, I'm probably not going to listen to them too much. But yeah, growing up, it definitely played a bigger role in me, but it was because my identity was not even there. And I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the toughest things for me, and it really hit me when we moved out here to Texas, because I didn't know anybody. My mother in law didn't move out here for some months after. And so it was just me and my husband. And for the first time, and we've been together for 16 years, for the first time 4 years ago, I got to make my own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Like me. There's no one here telling me I needed to be at church at a certain time, or there's no one around here telling me I need to go hang out somewhere. It was all me. And that was very strange. And at the same time, it was such a relief because I really got to hear who's talking when my thoughts came to mind.
So what would you say to someone who feels like they're constantly behind, or not measuring up, or maybe they're listening to everybody else and they don't know their own value? What would you say to them?
I would say if you can, take a break, a disconnect, even if it's just for the weekend, and question everything. One of the biggest transformations that I would say really played a role in how I came to these conclusions was me questioning my beliefs. And it felt very weird. I'm not going to lie. It felt odd. It even felt like just the very questioning of like, why do I believe this? I believe in God, but even the question, like, why do I believe in God? Do I believe in God because I was told, or is this actually me? Even the
Mhm.
very questions of that made me feel like I was committing some kind of crime. But that just goes to show that sometimes we are so influenced that we don't even realize we're not making our own decisions. And that could be the decision to get married. Maybe you really don't want to get married. I know that my husband loves me so much and that would never cross his mind nor mine. Just ask yourself these things like, why do I dress the way that I dress? Why anything? Why do I have the profession that I have? Why do I talk to the people that I talk to? Why do I hang out with whatever? Why do I do certain things that I do? Why do I hang out at these places? All of those things, that's what I would say, because we've been talking about identity. Well, this whole thing is based off of identity and what
Mhm.
influences it. But we all have an identity that we are taking on. And you've mentioned, and myself, like finding our identity. Well, it's not that it's necessarily finding, it's more that it's unburying.
Yes,
Because,
uncovering.
yeah, yeah. And so you're there, you've always been there. And if you're like me, there's times where you quiet that and you're like, no, 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 because that's not going to fit in. But
Mm.
let it come out because you're not fitting
Mhm.
in anyways. Even when you think you're fitting in, you're not fitting in because the only person that you're going to end up hurting and resenting is yourself.
Yep, that's true. And there's always that pressure, the pressure to perform, pressure to do something better, do something like somebody else. I mean, we live in a world that is constantly telling us who we should be. Could be social media, right? Be more beautiful, be more successful, be more productive. Don't be too much, but don't be too little either. So we're in this constant battle if we're listening to all of that and not listening to ourselves. I feel like you were just saying, we have to be true to ourselves because the pressure is real. I
Mhm.
mean, you even mentioned churches. I mean, even in church spaces, we might feel like we always need a smile, we always have to serve, we always have to have it together, or people are not going to think we're these perfect Christians, but it's not about that. I mean, it's not even biblical. We just have to be true to ourselves. And once we're true to ourselves, then other people can respect that. And that vibe will attract other people because you're just being real. You're just being honest. If I feel like I'm not going to be real in my post, I'm just not going to post then. Why post anything? I don't need the likes to feel liked. Right? So no matter what we're doing, no matter how we are on social media, no matter how we're on real life, whether I get that job or I don't, or I have that degree or I don't, or I make this amount of money or I don't, I know that I'm still valuable. And that's what we're trying to get here in this podcast. We don't have to compare ourselves. Destiny, closing us out, what would you say to your generations or somebody out there? What advice would you give them if they're struggling? Maybe they're saying, I'm just engulfed in social media. I can't help it. I want to look like her. I want to talk like her. I want to dress like her. If not, I don't feel like I'm of any value. What's one thing that you hope they would take away from this conversation?
That comparison is the thief of joy. And
Mhm.
that why are you going to compare yourself if you're just going to be unhappy in the end because you're not
Mhm.
that person?
Yeah.
So stop comparing yourself.
Yeah. That's good, Destiny. And ladies, we're not here to bash social media. Social media is not the root of all evil. I mean, because let's face it, we can compare ourselves anywhere. We could go to the mall and see someone with a cute outfit and think, I could never look like that in that outfit. Or we can look at somebody at our jobs and say, oh, I just am not that smart. I don't know if I can ever get to that level in my career. We can compare ourselves anytime, anywhere. The root of all evil is comparison. We do not need to compare ourselves to feel more valuable, to have more worth, because a lot of times the world says you have to look a certain way to have value. You have to talk a certain way to have value. Your family life, your home has to look a certain way for you to be valuable. We're here to tell you that you're valuable no matter what you have or what you don't have. No matter what your career is, no matter if you're married or not, no matter if you have the most elaborate wardrobe or don't, you're still valuable because you were created on purpose with a purpose. And nobody should make you feel like you're less just because you don't live up to their expectation. And you know what comparison means? Comparison means the quality of being similar or equivalent. Well, can I tell you, a masterpiece isn't similar or equivalent to anything. It stands on its own. It's original, it's authentic, and it's valuable because of that. It's valuable because there's nothing like it, because you can't compare it to anything. And we just want to tell you that that's you. You are a masterpiece. You can't be compared to anything. Do you know that there is not one person on this earth that has the same DNA or fingerprint as you? Because look, The police officers wouldn't be taking fingerprints if it would match a million other people. They take it because that's your identity. You are the only one that can be identified by those fingerprints. So we're here to tell you that your life is so unique, so individual, so original that you don't need to compare yourself to anybody, because there's nobody that can compare themselves to you, because you are one of a kind. There's nobody equivalent to you. There's no one similar to you. Even if you have a twin sister or brother, you still have your own DNA, your own fingerprint. You still have your own likes, your own dislikes. You still have your own personality. So why go and copy or compare yourself to somebody who can never even be like you? You are an original. And you just have to believe it. You have to love yourself enough to say, I don't need to compare. I can admire. I can be intrigued. I can even be inspired by that person or those people. But I don't need to compare them to me, because I'm unique. I'm one of a kind. I'm an original. And comparison, it hijacks our identity. And when we don't know who we are, when we're confused and we're frustrated and annoyed because we're so busy looking at other people and admiring their life, we're forgetting that we have our own gifts, our own talents, our own abilities that are unique, that are special, and that somebody else is waiting for us to shine and to live the life that we were meant to live. You are an incredible human being. And so we're just asking you, hey, take a step back. If you feel like you're in that comparison vortex, take a step back. Like Selena was saying, maybe step away from social media. Maybe it's time for you to be grateful for you and what you bring to the table. Because what you bring to the table, nobody else can bring. The value that you bring, nobody else can compare. So we hope that listening to this podcast, it is pumping you up. It is encouraging you. It is inspiring you. You are uneasy in your seat because you are saying, yes, I can do this. I am good to be me. I am enough, because you are. And those people that you're comparing yourself to have no idea. They're not doing what they do so that you can be wallowing in their success or their glam or their glory. They're just being themselves. These people who we're comparing ourselves to and are frustrated and uptight about because they're living their best lives, they have no idea how you feel is not impacting them at all. The only difference is they're living the life that you want to live, only because you may not be doing what they're doing. You don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. They can be working day and night. They can be up till 2 a.m. in the morning on their business, on their education, on developing their skills, or taking marriage classes or going to parenting classes. You never know what they're doing behind the scenes. The only difference between you and them is they're not afraid to be themselves. They're not afraid to take chances. And they might be doing it all afraid. They might be doing it by challenging themselves. They might be putting a lot of money into what they're doing, and you're just seeing the fruit of their labor. But you can do it too. Be grateful for who you are and where you are at today, but also challenge yourself to do something different to get to where you want to be. Look, I get it, ladies. We can all get sucked up in comparison because someone's life always looks better. Their marriage always looks happier. Their kids always look cleaner. And we could even compare ourselves to spiritual growth. Yes, even as church folk, we can compare ourselves, right? We can think to ourselves, oh, I could never pray like that, or I could never go up and speak to all these people. But the only difference between you and them is that they're doing it. When you continually challenge yourself to be better, to do more, to get out of your comfort zone, to step out of that box, you don't have to compare yourself, because change always happens with a choice. So choose to change instead of compare. Choose to go after what you want instead of comparing yourself to those who are doing what you want. There's always a process, there's always a path, and you have a purpose because things don't happen by chance. They happen by choice and they happen by intention. You have to be okay with just being you, but you also have to take steps to find out who you are. Like I know you shared that, Selena. You had to take steps to find out who you are. And so we are going to be wrapping it up, ladies. So thank you for joining me. Is there anything else you want to say to our audience before we end? And again, we'll be having many more of these conversations because there's so much to talk about. But any last words, Selena or Destiny?
I would say be yourself because it's the easiest thing to do. And you'll impact more people being yourself than you would trying to be anything or anybody else.
Yes, exactly. I just want to thank you, my beautiful daughters, for being on this podcast. And we hope that you would tune in to the next episode. And so be you because you're the only one that can do you. And you are a masterpiece just the way you are. But it doesn't mean you can't learn more about yourself. So, with that, thank you again, ladies, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. That's FaceTime me.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. I hope the discussion with me and my girls empowered you, encouraged you to go uncover your identity. And let me remind you, you don't have to compete. You don't have to compare. You are a masterpiece, not because of what you do, but because of whose you are. So stop scrolling for identity and start standing. Are you ready to take this deeper? Go to my link in bio. You are going to be directed to my Linktree page, and it has all of the tools that'll help you uncover your identity or maybe strengthen your identity. So go take my Masterpiece Life Check-in. It's a simple tool to help you discover where you are in your identity journal. And when you complete it, you'll get my free identity reset guide. And this has 3 simple steps to help you start uncovering who you truly are and discover your true worth. And if you haven't already, go follow me on the socials at The Masterpiece Life, and you will get daily truth and encouragement. And don't miss out on any of my episodes. Go subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment and also share the podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and now go live the masterpiece you are. See you next time.